So I want to give you a quick demo on how to make our power wires that we will run from the power distribution module to a motor controller or perhaps a servo controller. To do this, I'm going to have a ruler, I'm going to have something to cut the wire with, something to strip the ends of the wire, a crimper for our power connector, our power pole connectors, which are these little guys right here, and then of course the wire. I'm going to start off, and for this demo I'm going to just cut something that is about 12 inches long. On your robot you'll need to figure out the distance that you need for this wire, and of course that'll depend on how far away from the power distribution module your motor controller, for example, is. So I'm going to start here, and we'll just get a little bit of demo wire out here. Now, I've got my two pieces of wire, and I'm going to take these wire strippers. This happens to be 12 gauge wire. So I'm going to put this in the 12 gauge slot, and I'm going to cut off just enough insulation so that we can get it in this little connector that we've got right here. So we'll twist this until we get it free, and then we'll pull it out, and we got the wire off that end. So now we can test that, putting the wire into this connector. Sometimes those little strands of wire like to be on the outside. You want to make sure they get all on the inside so you can give them a little twist. And there, we got that one pretty good. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. Crimp it, twist it so that it cuts the insulation on all the sides. And then pull it. And we've got that one. We'll twist it again, put this on, and we've got the black wire done. Now we will do the same thing with both ends of the red wire. Got one of them done. Come back to the other one. Squeeze it a few times just to cut that insulation. Pull it back. And now, before I wrap these together, before I put the connectors on there, I'm going to wrap these together, which just makes it easier when you're threading this stuff around in the robot. If we can kind of keep these wrapped together, then they tend to get in kind of better controlled areas of the robot. Okay, didn't do a real good job of wrapping those, but you get the idea. Now, what we'll do is we're going to take one of these aluminum connectors, put it on the wire, and then we're going to use our crimpers. These guys right here. These guys have a 3 different levels that you can crimp. You can do a 45 amp, 30 amp, and a 15 amp. This is a pretty good sized wire, so I'm going to put this in the 30 amp slot, and this is going to be hard for you to see, but you put it in just like this, with this guy kind of pointing down, and put your wire in there so that it can be crimped. Now, I can't crimp it and hold it for the camera, so I'm going to turn it around here. You're going to squeeze it all the way until it clicks. And then you come out, you got a nice solid connector there. Do the same thing again for the red wire. Put it in there, put it in the 30 amp, squeeze it all the way until it clicks, and then you're done. We will get another one for the other end. Put that guy on. Back in the 30 amp. Now, I'm using the 30 amp in this case because I've got this 12 gauge wire. It's a pretty good size wire. Sometimes you may not be using the 12 gauge wire. You may be using something a little bit smaller, like maybe some 16 gauge wire. And on those times, I've actually put it in the 15 amp slot because it squeezes a little bit tighter. But it's important to squeeze these things all the way and to use that tool. The reason it's important is because this connector right here slides into the red and the black connector until it clicks. If we've got some kind of a ununiform clamping on this, you won't be able to slide it into the connector. So make sure you use this, make sure it is clamped all the way and that this guy is pretty smooth. Now, what you're going to do here is you're going to have this connector so that it points down. So the little hump is up and it points down. And then in this black and red connector, there is a piece of aluminum in there, spring in there. You want to put this right over the top of that spring. So you're going to slide it in just like this. The spring is on the bottom. You're going to slide it in, and then it'll click. As soon as it clicks, you're good. And if you're like me, you're going to try to push that thing a bunch of ways. The spring is on the bottom. I'm going to push it in again. Oh, that one clicked right in. That's all there is to it. The red wire here, have this at the bottom. The spring is at the bottom. Push it in and it'll click. It's easier to push the wire in with this heavier gauge. Sometimes with the smaller gauge wire, you actually have to take a screwdriver and push this clamp in so that it will click. Push it in, it'll click, and you're all done. That's all there is to it. So you need to build at least one of these because you'll go from the power distribution module to the motor controller. You may have more than one motor controller on your robot, so if that's the case, you will have to do this. You will also have to put connectors like this on those plugs that go into the back of the motor because they plug into the motor controller. And you will need to change to this power pole type connector on the battery. And because we changed it on the battery, you're going to have to change it on the battery charger. I'll try to put together another video for that because there's a couple of things that you've got to be aware of before you do that. This will help you get started with just the power distribution cable that you need. If you got any questions, please let me know.